Hi guys, it's Dawn here. Welcome back to my channel. And today's video we're going to be talking a little bit more about scrying, and particularly today we're going to focus on wax scrying, and I'm going to share with you a wax scrying session. And this is I think it's the fourth of the series of videos that I've been doing on scrying, and I will link the other videos below. Each video kind of builds a little bit on the practice of scrying. I go into the history of it a little bit and some of the things that you do in order to make your scrying session successful, and I'll recap a little bit of those with you. So scrying is basically to see. It allows us to tap into our higher self, our psychic information, the Akashic records, whatever, the universal mind, whatever you want to call it. It helps us to tap in and access wisdom and knowledge that, as we're navigating our life, our busy life, we forget to pay attention to. So scrying just helps us to kind of press pause a little bit from that busyness and go into an altered state of consciousness in order to tap in and download. And there are many forms of scrying. So I know the videos that I've covered, we've looked at black water scrying, we've looked at mirror scrying, we've looked at ink scrying, and as I said, today is going to be wax scrying, and I also want to do some crystal ball scrying as well, so lots more to come on that. But today's video is all about wax scrying. And so to participate, if you want to do this, you're going to need a candle. I only use wax. It's natural, it's non-toxic, and it smells delicious. So that is my candle of choice. And I think I might do a video in the future about how to make your own wax candles for your magical practice. And then you'll also need a bowl. Now, the bowl, it doesn't have to be anything special. I do have a particular bowl that I use for wax scrying. It's got some dragons on, and that's the only purpose that I use this bowl for. I think I've said previously in other videos, if I have a specific purpose, then I'll dedicate a tool for that. So for this bowl, it is exclusively for my wax scrying sessions. So you can go to the dollar store and pick up a breakfast bowl, and it is just as effective. But what I would say is you dedicate that solely for the purpose of wax scrying, rather than using it to eat out of, or it just kind of gives the tool a bit of a mixed message. And I always like to dedicate my my ritual tools and ask them to always work from the highest good. So that is what I do with my tools. And of course you're going to need something to light your candle with. You're also going to need a little bit of quiet time for that. So, don't try and squeeze a wax scrying session in, in between some kind of, busy times, because you've really got to get into that headspace and heart space, that meditative space that is really important to be able to access your higher self. So make sure that you've got a good amount of time. The scrying session itself doesn't have to take a full hour, but the preparation, the grounding, the centering, the setting your intention, all of that stuff will take some time beforehand. And then there's the scrying session, and then the interpretation if you need to go within a little bit more and maybe do some journaling. So you want to make sure that you have a reasonable amount of time to do this. But it's just such a fantastic practice, and basically the process is to allow the wax to drip into the water, and to see how the wax kind of moves and forms and shapes itself, and creates a symbols and messages. Sometimes you'll get letters, sometimes you'll get pictures, images, and your job then is to interpret those. And so interpretation is what meaning you're making from that. That's what the most important thing is. There's no right or wrong. It's the meaning you're making, and we'll all come at it from a different perspective. So step by step process. Obviously, gather all of the equipment that you need: your bowl, your candle, maybe a journal to write in, your matches or your lighter, whatever you're going to use to light your candle. And then you want to cleanse everything. So cleanse the space, cleanse the tools, cleanse yourself. If I'm doing something significant, if I'm going to do some magical work in that is kind of big, and I need to be fully prepared for that, I will have a ritual bath beforehand, even so that I'm fully clear of anything that I've been holding on to, and I'm in the right head and heart space. So all of those preparations are really important to come to something like this. So you've cleansed your space, you're cleansed, your ritual tools are cleansed, and then you need to kind of ready yourself. So you want to sit for a little moment or two and ground and center. I would also ask for some protection. When we're in that altered state, we lose the awareness of what's happening around us. So I always like to make sure that I create a circle of protection. So whether that's white light, or you cast a circle if that's your practice, or you use some crystals, whatever that looks like for you. I think it's always good practice to do that before you enter into any type of scrying session. I always like to do some kind of deep breathing to get myself grounded and centered, and I like to really connect with my heart. I always say that this work done well is done from your heart. It's why I'm saying all the time, head and heart space. And this is a really important aspect for this work. So really kind of breathe into your heart, and I like to allow that energy from my heart to expand out into the space, and out into the universe as well. I think that really helps me to set an intention that is of love. There is nothing stronger, more powerful than that love vibration. So that's where I want to be when I do this work. You also want to, ask your questions. So if you are scrying for a specific answer to a situation, you want to get clear about what your scrying session is going to be focused on, what you're asking. Of course, you can always ask for, what do I need to know? So in terms of lighting, it's quite nice if you have the lighting dimmed in the room that you're scrying in. It just kind of adds to the ambience. I also like to I always like to light some incense as well. My favorite is Nag Champa. It's the one that I burn all of the time, and it always, as soon as I smell it, it just kind of calms me and relaxes me and gets me into that wonderful headspace. But whatever works for you, or not burning anything, is fine as well. It's certainly not essential. But what we are trying to do is to create an environment where you can relax and you can go within, and you can enter into that state that allows you to access that higher knowledge. Now, I am going to be doing a scrying session, and I will talk you through what I'm doing. I'm going to be doing the scrying session silent, so I can fully connect with the session, and then I'll do a voiceover afterwards. So I'm really looking forward to doing that. But let me just talk a little bit about what you do after the scrying session. So I always like to journal after a scrying session, because as I'm writing, you know, what I've seen and the impressions that would come into me, more flows from that. So I always like to do that. And in terms of, you know, kind of closing the session down, I always like, you know, I always like to acknowledge the connections that I've made. I always like to thank the universe for sending me that information. I always like to make it clear as well that this time is over and we're closing the session down. And a really nice way of just kind of closing the energy down is just putting your hand on top of the bowl. It is done, so mote it be. And then of course you want to dump the water. You know, I always like to take the chunkies out, because well, I'm going to show you what you do with the wax and how you would further investigate what the wax is telling you. And you know, I often keep anything that is significant. I'll keep it for a time on my altar as a reminder. And then when I have finished with all of that, I will put all of the bits of wax together in a, you know, in a container, and I will use that to make candles in the future as well, because just think of all of the wonderful magic that wax is imbued with. So I don't want to waste anything. So there you have it. Let's get going and let's have a little go at a scrying session. So here we are, I've got my bowl, I'm agitating the water so that there's movement, and I'm starting to drip my wax in. Now this reading was a reading for the community, so for me and for anybody watching the video, there was information in there. So looking, I can see a C, a letter C, but I can also see a seahorse. I don't know if you saw the seahorse coming around there for a moment. Seahorses really help through emotional times, and so that is very relevant for me, and interesting that it showed up in a water scrying session as well. I can see a goddess here, so very much connected to the divine feminine. And I can also see two hearts, so very, you know, this is, you know, kind of relationship and the importance of, you know, kind of love and relationship as well. Now the water stopped moving, and that's okay, you know, and it's okay that your hand will move and the wax will move around because of that. You just continue to allow the wax to drip for as long as you want it to drip. And you know, as that wax is going, as dripping in, again, it's like a beating heart. It reminds me of a beating heart. So definitely this heart space, or this heart-centered space, is really important. I know I keep banging on about hearts, but absolutely, absolutely right. And now I have decided to end the session. So what I'm going to do now is just to look, and I can see a face there. It looks like a male face, so that might relate to relationships. And this to me looks like there's a person holding a heart. So you know, again, you know, hearts are really important in this scrying session. So love and relationship, I think, are quite prevalent. And so now I'm going to move the, you know, the big blob around, see what I can see. And there's a letter L. That doesn't mean anything to me, but it might mean something to you. But you're literally just allowing yourself to just see the shapes from a different perspective and see if something more comes up for you there. And then I always like to pick up the wax and have a look at from the underside. And immediately when I did that, and I hope you can see it as well, but I have a dragon. So interesting that it is a dragon bowl that I'm using, but that to me is very evidently a dragon that I absolutely didn't see at the time. Um, but it's pretty fun. It's pretty fantastic, and so I'm not clued up on the meanings of dragons, so I am going to do a little bit of research into what dragons mean, and have a look at that a little bit later. I'll share that with you. So I'm going to get out the other blobby, have a look at that, see if there's anything, and so I can see a person hunched over. And funnily enough, I was having a conversation with my husband yesterday about me spending far too much time on the computer, so that's probably a good reminder there that I certainly need to do something better. And it's hard to see it there, but that looked like a feline face, a nose and a mouth, and kind of the little puffy cheeks there. So maybe cat. Oh, and there's the person hunched over the keyboard. So I think I can definitely see that. And then I'm just swirling the water to see if the remaining drips of wax form into anything meaningful, and they didn't. So I think I have all of the meaning for me out of this session, and I hope that you saw some stuff too, and I would love to hear about those in the comments. So I thought I would have a little look and see what dragon symbolism means. So I jumped on this site here. It's Spirit Animal. So the author is Elena Harris, and I really liked what she had to say. So she says, the dragon is cloaked with mystique and sewn together by the many legends and folklore surrounding its history. This powerful and mesmerizing creature has been the inspiration for countless books, poems, art, music, movies, and other expressive mediums. The dragon has been well respected in many cultures and is either honored or greatly feared. So she goes on to say that the dragon is one of the most powerful totems. So it has a diverse range of qualities, emotions, and traits, giving it a number of different meanings. So most often it carries a reminder of strength, courage, and fortitude. I like that. And then messenger of balance and magic, which I absolutely adore, being an earth-based practitioner and doing that type of work. I absolutely love the fact that it's connected to magic. And she goes on to say that if a dragon has arrived in your life, it asks you to tap into your psychic nature and allow yourself to view the world through eyes of wonder and mystery. And how fitting that the dragon appeared to me as I was tapping into my psychic nature doing some wax scrying. So I love that too. So if we just mooch down the site. The one thing that I probably don't agree with, she says that the dragon is a symbol of primordial power and it's a master of all elements. And although I work with elements, I definitely am not the master of elements. And I think that anyone who believes that they're mastering elements is fooling themselves because as a very wise teacher of mine told me, Matilda, props to you, an element can take you out at any time. So we have to come to this work with elements with respect. And I'm excited because I'm co-creating a course with Matilda all about elemental magic. And we're going to do a deep dive into each of the 4 elements, and also the 5th, which is spirit. So I'm excited that the dragon's shown up at this time as well. So some of the associated meanings with the dragon is change and transformation. You know, I can absolutely feel that. There's, and not just for me, we're on the cusp of something, and I can really feel that. Wisdom, metaphysical knowledge, beauty, majesty, inspiration, infinity, longevity, movement through space. I'm planning a video on astral travel, so that will be interesting. The supernatural, I am totally immersed in the supernatural, being a paranormal researcher and investigator. It's not just about ghosts, but I love anything that is outside of our normal sphere of existence. Protection and protection from outside evil forces from all directions. Again, it's really, really interesting because Matilda and I are hosting Witch School in a couple of weeks, and so we're just writing a module on protection and really kind of digging into some of the old ways of protection. So you can't get much older than a dragon. Elemental magic, which we talked about, grounded energy, leadership, fulfillment of potential, that sounds good. Luminous, indomitable spirit and strength. So whatever life throws at me, I can walk through it with some ease. Magical prowess, I think we're all seeking that. Vitality, mastery, insight, divine illumination, personal happiness, and invisibility, which is an interesting one. So I'm quite loving the fact that a dragon came to me, and there's some nice imagery here as well. And on the site she talks about how to access your shamanic knowledge. And the reason why I'm scrolling down is because she goes on to look at dragons from each of the elements. So because we were performing wax scrying in water, so a form of hydromancy, I thought I would have a look at what the water dragon is. And I actually really like the picture that's underneath, because to me it does look like the image of what the wax had produced. So so I like that. But what she says is that the water dragon represents connection, depth, passion. He brings memories and wishes that you may have long forgotten. He allows you the opportunity to square up with painful past experiences, transforming it into peace, balance, and harmony. Emotional healing is possible at this time, and the dragon offers you courage and compassion to battle your challenges successfully. You know, I think we're all held by our past experiences to a certain extent, some of us more than others, and some experiences certainly sit more deeply. And I think that that's the continued work that we have to do as light workers, as energy workers, as psychics, mediums, whatever term we want to put on all of that. I do think that we have to, you know, kind of unwrap that and have a look at things. And, you know, I'm English. We're really good at hiding our emotions away and popping them into a box and putting the lid on. And I always say to my friends and students, when the lid blows off that box, watch out, because it's going to be messy. Or maybe the dragon's going to help me to just take the lid off a little bit and peek in and start to resolve that, which would be a good thing. So there you have it. That was our wax scrying session. I certainly got a lot of validation and some fantastic messages. And as I said at the start of the session, I set the intention for everybody who's watching the video to gain some guidance and wisdom. So you may have seen some of the same things that I did, or you may have seen totally different things. And even if you saw the same things, you may have interpreted them differently as well. Remember, scrying is contextual, so it really depends upon the context for you. So my interpretation is for me and your interpretation is for you. And if you've seen something from my reading that you want to share with me, I'd love to hear about it in the comments below. I'd also love to hear if you're able to share anything that you saw for you out of the scrying session as well. And as always, if you like these videos, consider subscribing to the channel and hitting the bell so that you're notified every time a new video gets posted. And thank you for watching. I'm eternally grateful to be able to do this work. Have a fantastic day.